All right, let's take a look at installing everything you're going to need to be able to do Android development on your own computer. Here I am on our install page. I have a bunch of links to various things, so we'll need the latest version of Java, Java 7. Clicking on that will take us to that page. I'll actually open up all the links to start off with. We're going to need Eclipse, and we're going to need the Android Development Kit. Okay. Downloading these is fairly straightforward. There are a couple little things. So for instance, here we have the Java SE 7 version 7. So we want the JDK. That's the one that you definitely want. Not just the JRE. The JDK has the Java compiler. Go ahead and click download. Once you do that, then you're just going to want to scroll down here, and you need to accept the license agreement. And then you simply pick the particular version for the operating system that you're using. Since I'm using Windows 7 64-bit, I would actually download this version. I'm not going to download it here because I've actually already downloaded all of these things. Namely, I've put them on my desktop in a folder called Android. So there's what I would have downloaded. For Eclipse, similarly, if we scroll down, you'll see there are a number of different flavors of Eclipse. The one that we want actually is the Eclipse IDE for Java developers. Again, I'm using a 64-bit version of Windows, so I'll grab the 64-bit version of that. Okay, we come to here, then I can click my particular mirror link. It picks this sort of semi-randomly, so but yeah, you basically then again want to click this, and ultimately that will download that, give you the Eclipse, Java, Juno, etc. Okay, finally you need the Android developer, the SDK. Okay, so that's over here. Once again, we can go ahead and just click on that button. And you can do the save file, and that will save accordingly. Again, not going to do that because I already have that stuff here. Now that we have downloaded everything, let's start with installing the first bit of tools, namely Java. Okay. Again, when you go back over to the Java download page here, if I just back up one to the original page, notice there are installation instructions. For the most part, this is a pretty straightforward install. The only thing that you may actually want to be concerned with is setting up an environment variable. So we're going to do that here, and these directions actually show how to do that, namely the JDK installation for Microsoft Windows. So if you go here, you'll see there's actually a bunch of stuff. Notice this little part here, updating the path environment variable, which it says is optional. Honestly, it's best to just go ahead and do that. So there's kind of the directions for that. But let me walk you through this. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and I'm just going to run the installer. Yes, it's asking me for my administrator password. And I'm just going to accept the defaults. Notice it's going to the C drive. There's the actual path. I'm going to actually kind of want to take note of that because that's going to become important later when we need to set the path. So it just asked me, yes, do I actually want to install the JRE there as well? Yes, I do, so I'll go ahead and allow it to do that. Okay, so we got stuff successfully installed, so I'll go ahead and click close. You'll notice in the background it's opening up my browser. It's actually taking me to the registration page for Java. You don't actually need to register Java to make this work. So it'll go through all this, and you can actually just close that out. Okay, so now we need to actually do those little manipulations of the environment variables. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go to the start, and I'm going to do a search for environment variables, right? And notice it says I edit the system environment variables. That's the one that I actually want. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Again, it's going to ask me for my admin password. Okay, and I get into a setting that looks like this. Okay, then I'm going to come here to environment variables. Okay. And you see I have a bunch of stuff here, right? So I'm going to go down to system variables, this section here, and since I don't have Java on this particular machine, you'll notice, so what I need to do is basically to create a new environment variable. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to select new. Okay, now the variable name, this is the important part. You want to make sure to get the spelling right and all of that. Okay, so in all capitals, Java _home. Okay, that's the variable name. This Java home basically sets on your system where by default Java is installed. A lot of Java tools will actually make use of this to basically figure out or look for the version of Java that you have on your system. So it's good to actually have set. Okay, now what do we set this to? What is its value? Well, basically we need to set it to the value of where Java itself is actually installed. Okay, so recall I mentioned that when you're installing it, you want to make note of this, but generally it's going to go on your C drive. Okay, and depending on whether if you're using a 64-bit version of Windows, then you'll have these two different folders, and if you use the 64-bit version of Java, it will be in the program files rather than the program files x86. x86 are the 16-bit programs. So we'll go over here to our 64-bit version. Right there's our Java folder. And inside here, you'll notice we have two folders, a JDK and a JRE. The JDK is the one that we want, so I'm just going to double-click on that, and that shows me there's my Java install. Okay, so a really easy way of basically getting this set up now is I'm just going to come up here, and I'm going to click with the left mouse button, and you'll notice it actually selected this. So now I'm going to right-click and select Copy. Now I can minimize this. I can go back over to my variable value, right click and select paste. Right now I have that in there, and very easy to get set up. Okay, so I click OK. All right, so I have my Java home. The other thing is I'm also going to do one other thing in terms of the system variables to make it easier for our system to find the Java tools, and that is to add the Java directory, the Java binary directory to the system path. Okay, the Windows systems path, right, which is right here, simply is where Windows will look by default for various commands. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and edit this, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. I'm just going to hit the end key to come all the way down to here. I'm going to put a semicolon, and then I'm going to type out %, and then again, all in caps, my Java home, Java _home, another %, a backslash, and a bin. Okay, so this basically says go to whatever the value of Java home is. That's what the %signs are, /bin. So look in the bin directory, add that to the system path. Okay, so having done that, I click OK. That's been added. I can click OK there, click OK here to close this. And now I can actually test to just see if Java is installed and running properly. So over here, I'm just going to run a command prompt, and I'm going to run Java. So that runs the Java virtual machine, a dash, and version. So if everything is set up properly, if my path is set and so forth, then this should tell me what version of Java I'm actually running. Okay, and there it is. We see that our Java version is 1.7.0_07. That's the version that we just installed. So Java is now successfully installed. Okay. Now, once we know that that's successful, we can close this, just like we would any other window. And now that we have Java installed, we should be able to install Eclipse. Now, Eclipse doesn't really have an installer per se. Okay, so ultimately, what you need to do is basically, you'll see it's just a zip file. So we're simply going to unzip this and put it in the location that we want. So what I can do is I can double click on this. You'll see that inside here, right, we see that it is a zip file. Not only do we see the .zip, but we also see the little zipper on the folder telling us that's a compressed zip. Okay, in here it has a folder named Eclipse, and inside there is, well, Eclipse itself. Okay, so basically the idea is you can put this really wherever you want it to be installed. So we'll put it in sort of the standard place. That is that I'm going to come back over here to my window. Okay, you'll notice this is the window that had Java open. Again, if you didn't have that open, if you happen to close that, no big deal. Just go to Computer, go to your C drive. Again, since I've downloaded the 64-bit version of Eclipse, I'm going to put it in program files rather than the 16-bit. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is to take my Eclipse folder that's inside the compressed zip, and I'm just going to drag that out onto the desktop, and that will basically unzip all of those files. Now it'll actually take a few seconds to do that. All right, once that's done, let me just back this up to there. I'll still keep this open, just minimize that. I'm going to want to go back to C. There's my program files directory, and I'm just going to drag Eclipse down into the program files folder. Yes, I want to do that. And it's moving it right into there. Okay, so if I go in here and I can check, there's the actual Eclipse folder itself, and here's all the files for Eclipse. Now, the kind of downside of this install is that it doesn't give you one of these nice little program groups or icons in your start menu. If you want that, that's actually really simple to add. So over here, notice I'm on my start menu. I'm going to go to all programs. I'll right click and select open all users. That gives me a window that looks like this. I'll go to programs. And now in here, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of right click in one of these white areas here. I'm going to go to new and say that I want a new folder. And I'm going to name it Eclipse. Okay. So there's my Eclipse folder. I'll hit F5 to sort of sort that back into where it's supposed to be. Then what I'm going to do is go back over to my program files Eclipse, and I will right click on that, and what I'm going to say is that I want to create a shortcut. Okay, so I create a shortcut. There is my shortcut file. So all I need to do is drag my shortcut over to here. Again, yes, with the administrator password. Okay, and I can kind of rename this, tidy this up so that it looks nicer when it appears. So basically just delete everything up to the Eclipse. Yes, we're going to do that. Okay, once I have that, that means that I can come over here, I can go to all programs, and you'll see there is my Eclipse folder, and there's Eclipse itself. Okay, so I can click that and run Eclipse. All right. Now that we have Eclipse installed, let's install the Android Development Toolkit, the SDK itself. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my Program Files Eclipse window. I'm going to go back over to my Android folder. And here we have that installer that we had downloaded for that. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and run this. Yes, I want to run that. Okay. Notice it was able to find our toolkit, so that's good. Okay. It says, "Is this where you want to actually put this?" So notice it's actually going to put it in my user folder, app data, etc. That's certainly fine. Some people will also install this in program files. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it with the defaults. Okay. And it will add a start menu option, so that's fine as well. Okay, Notice then it has stuff for start the SDK manager. This is a step that you're going to need to do. This one is going to take a little bit of time, but let's actually kind of go through this, and I'll show you the things that you're going to want to install. So the SDK itself basically gives you kind of the basic tools, but then what you have are various sort of images for the various levels of Android that you're going to develop for. So notice, for instance, here's Android 4.1, the latest version, Jelly Bean, right? It's officially known as API 16, and then there are all of the things that come for that, and then there are other versions as well, right? So we go all the way back down to, notice there's an Android 1.5, right? We have our extras. Some of the things that, one of the big things that you're going to definitely want in here is the Google USB driver. Okay, you definitely need that, especially if you're going to, need that if you're going to hook up your Android device to your machine. So this basically allows the Android Development Toolkit, the SDK, to talk to your Android device directly. Okay, now in terms of which of these you're going to install, if you take a look at the Dytel book, they basically have you select all of them. You can do that. It's kind of overkill, quite honestly, to install. 4.1 is the latest version of Jelly Bean. We're going to grab one of the latest versions from the 3 branch, and our other one we're going to grab is 2.3.3. The other thing you want to make sure that is selected is the Google USB driver. Okay, so it comes up, it says, all right, do you actually want to install all of these things? We absolutely do, so I'm just going to go ahead and say accept all, and click install, and now it's just a waiting game. It's simply wait for those particular things to be installed on your system. When you're installing, if you get dialogues like this that ask you for your MotoDev account information, you don't actually need that stuff. What that actually is are if you were working with certain Motorola specific parts, you'd actually want those. So the way basically of getting around this is you just do a cancel here, and anytime you see those, just cancel those out, and then you should be good to go. Okay, so once you got those things installed, we can go ahead and close the SDK manager. Now, the next step is that we need to set up profiles for the different virtual devices. The idea is this way what you have are fake Android or emulated Android platforms to actually be able to test your applications on. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to go to the SDK tools, and you're going to go to the AVD manager. Okay, so when we get here, notice basically we don't have any existing devices. All right, all we need to do is we can go ahead and say new. We'll start off actually with the targets. Okay, so you'll notice here under targets, I have a bunch of different things. I'm going to start off with sort of the highest level here, namely Android 4.1, the latest version of Jelly Bean. Okay, so I select that, and so I'll just give it a name, something like Android underscore 4.1. I can leave most of this stuff in. Now, here's one of the big tricks with this. What you'll find is the first time you run your virtual device or your emulator, it'll actually take a bit of time to run, and oftentimes without any other configuration, every time you run it, it takes kind of a lot of time to run. The big trick is to enable this thing called snapshot. Okay, what this does is basically saves the state of the emulator, which means that then after you run it the first time, from then on it runs actually a bit quicker. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say create AVD, and yes, it did in fact create that. There it is. Okay, now I'm going to create a couple more of these. Namely, I'm going to create one for the let's see, the 3.2. Android underscore 3.2. Again, make sure to enable the snapshot. And we will create our Android 233. And enable that snapshot. Okay, do create AVD. Right, and now we have our various virtual devices created. Go ahead and close that window, and we're ready for the next step. Okay, one last step to configuration, and then we should be good for creating our applications. I'm going to start up Eclipse. I'll go ahead and, in this case, I'm just going to accept the default for the workspace. And the first time Eclipse comes up, basically gives us kind of this little welcome thing. We can just go directly to the workbench. All right, so the next step is to install the plugin that allows Eclipse to talk to the Android Development Toolkit. And again, it's fairly straightforward, basically just a couple of little steps that we have to do. Okay, so now that we have Eclipse running, we're going to go to the Help menu, and we're going to say that we want to install new software. And then we're just going to go over here and click Add. Okay. Now, it asks us for information about the repository that we want to add. Basically, this is the website that has Eclipse plugins. Okay, so we're going to say this is for the ADT, the Android Development Toolkit. In terms of the location, back here on our install page, if we scroll down past all of this stuff, we'll see that we have the Eclipse plugin repository, and we're just going to grab that URL. I'm going to say copy. I'm going to come back over here, and I'll just paste that right in. Okay, so that's the URL that we want. We click OK, and now we'll contact that website to actually find the tools that we need. Okay, so you'll notice actually it comes up with a couple of different options. Comes up with the developer tools and the NDK plugins. We don't need the NDK. NDK stands for Native Development Kit. We're not doing that, but we do want the developer tools, so we can go ahead and select that, and then we'll click Next. These are all the things that it's going to install. That's fine. And we'll basically accept the terms for the licenses. And it goes through and installs the software. This is fine. You don't have to worry about the fact that it's unsigned. Just go ahead and click OK. It'll go through the rest of this. Notice it does want to restart Eclipse, and you do need to do that, so go ahead and click Yes. Okay, once again, select the default workspace. Okay, so now we need to basically just tell it where the Android SDK is. So I'll say use existing SDK, and I'll go over here to browse. Here's my home directory, and if I scroll to app data, and then go to local, in local here I have Android SDK. Right, notice it's under the Android folder, so I select that. Notice it simply says configure SDK. That means we're good to go. I have my next button, so I can click next. You can decide if you're going to send usage data. I'm going to select no, and then click finish. this point, it's just finishing up its setup. You'll see the post create init going on here, and now we basically have our Android Development Toolkit plugin installed for Eclipse. The next step is that we simply need to try creating a basic Android app and see if it works.